Well, welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and excited for the conversation.
So, all right. So we have some books on the table. We're not going to get into that yet, but this is ESL, which is English as a second language. That's correct.
That's right.
And her whole family has had a legacy of English as a second language. And so we're going to get to learn about that. So tell us a little bit about ESL. Tell us a little bit about ESL. You can bring the books in, and we've got several books here to show you, and just talk about this, and then talk about. Can you tell us a little bit about your? There's a great video on her website, which I'll post on the actual podcast page on the page, but that kind of just goes through the legacy. But can you just tell us just shortly about the legacy?
Yeah. So ESL Launch, this has been really fun. And it has a long history and long story, and it's been really meaningful. It came to fruition in this format only last year. So basically from start to finish,
2025,
it's like a 1 year process. And it's kind of crazy how fast things can happen.
I was watching them pop up. I was like, number 1. There's number 2. I'm like, what the?
Yeah, most people in their right mind don't try to publish 4 books in 1 year. And that's part of why it's like that, that question of how does God in business? It's just, I know this was a God project, and part of it was because I actually got really stuck last year in April, and I could not figure out how to move forward on the books. I couldn't figure out how to word stuff, how to get things out of my brain. Specifically, this is a instructional curriculum, these 3 books here. So there's 3. This is the first one, and then we've got book 2 and book 3. And they're labeled super easy. They're just book 1, 2, 3 of the English, Teaching English the Natural Way, ESL Launch. So the company is ESL Launch LLC. So it's just, you can go to ESL.
So what does the word ESL mean?
ESL means English as a second language. So these are English teaching curriculums for teachers who are teaching English typically to students who are coming from another language background.
Okay.
So the thing, though, that's really unique, there's a couple things that are really unique about the program. We've built, as a family, we actually built this program. So I reformatted it and created this new version of it, but it's been a family process for a long time.
Wow.
So my dad started a business teaching English and started creating this material back in 2005. We were in Japan. I was a teenager and was helping with that process all through my teen years. I taught lessons. I built materials. I drew artwork for some of the flashcards. I learned, a lot of that process. And that, to be honest, was probably part of what birthed in me like a desire for entrepreneurship. I loved being able to, like, for example, there's some of my art in the flashcards, and I thought it was so cool that I could create art and then it could go to a format that got actually used.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
As a kid, like a lot of your stuff that you're doing, it just sits on a shelf somewhere and it doesn't get actually used. So I loved that, seeing that happen. So our family built out this program, and we were looking to design an English teaching program. We saw 2 major things. One, English is the most commonly spoken, used language in the world.
Yeah.
So if someone can learn English, it can bridge cultures, communication. Yeah. It opens the world to someone. And if they don't speak English, it means that although their native language is beautiful, powerful, and so important, it does mean that they're going to have to stay within the framework that they can communicate with. Right now that there's technology, there are opportunities that people can still have. But if someone can learn English, the possibilities just like way open up.
Wow.
And that's incredible. So we saw that living in Japan. So Japan actually started implementing in the school system where students had to start learning English. What we found, though, is that a lot of language learning programs, they study about the language instead of practicing the language.
Yeah.
And so what we started doing is we wanted to teach language in a way that was more action-oriented, more like do it, like do it with me.
Yeah.
I think language should always be taught kind of more similar to how music or sports or dance is taught. I recently learned how to dance in the last couple of years, and I was thinking I was like, man, if I studied dance and I just watched a whole bunch of videos and had a teacher and they're telling me all the technique and all the different ways to do stuff, and then we watch a video and I perfectly analyze the video. I tell them exactly what was happening in the video, and then my teacher was like, okay, so now go ahead and do it. It just wouldn't work, right? Like the translation from knowledge to action wouldn't work.
My daughter's in dance. She's probably over there laughing right now. Yeah, that's not how it works.
Yeah,
you can't read a book And do dance.
And learn how to dance. And the same thing is with language learning, whether it's English or another language. Yeah. You can't just read a book and then go do it. You need to actually experience it. So our whole program in here, in each book, there's it's a total of 30 lessons, and it starts from basic words and vocabulary.
You can show some of the pages, so that way because you've got a lot of you can lift it up and show it. You can see.
So we've got like veggies and fruits in here. Yeah. Each lesson has instructional material and then the flashcards. Yeah, so a student and a teacher can work through pointing at different things, doing the recognition of vocabulary. We've got, some fun animals and things.
That's so cool.
So it starts off easy, with basic vocabulary. And then right at the end of book 1, we teach a sentence pattern. And this one is really easy. It's just the elephant is walking. But here's the other piece that's really unique about our program is this concept here. So it's this building sentences page.
Yeah.
It's essentially we teach language kind of almost like an equation. And so the elephant is walking. And then we show our students, this is where the light bulb turns off. We show our students that the other vocabulary they've learned, they can now swap it out. So now take elephant and put in penguin. The penguin is walking. Now take penguin and put in cat. The cat is walking.
Oh.
All of a sudden, within minutes, they can create dozens of sentences.
Yeah.
From one pattern and the vocabulary we've taught.
Wow.
Then later we teach more sentence patterns, questions, past tense, adjectives, adverbs, prepositional phrases.
Yeah.
But in each of those places, we're teaching them that these are equations you can use, and here's how you swap the words out.
Wow.
Because you take the same sentence, the elephant is walking, you teach them a whole bunch of verbs. Now you just got dozens more. You combine all the combinations that you can switch from the animals and the people they learned to all the verbs they learned. You can create hundreds of sentences with one pattern.
Wow.
But then you start adding in adjectives, adverbs, prepositional phrases, other sentence patterns, and the possibilities are endless. So we build it like that because what I found even in my own language learning journey is that it's you can get really perfectionistic really fast. At least I can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I learn one sentence, and then I'm like, I don't want to mess it up. And so I don't change anything about that sentence because I know that sentence is right, but I don't know how to adjust anything to create a different sentence.
Yeah.
We want to teach our students how to learn the sentence, but show them how they can adjust things so they can actually change it and use it in a whole bunch of different scenarios.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So it's really powerful to be able to do that. So that's kind of how the program works and some of the things that are unique.
But that's interesting, though, that like you said, you teach it kind of like it's an equation. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like math, which people know. I mean, all countries are learning math.
Yeah.
So these kids understand equations usually, and so it's a building blocks. You teach it with building blocks versus,
Yep. And there's game ideas in there, how to make it interactive, how to make it fun, how to give them lots of listening practice, but then lots of speaking practice.
Oh, wow.
Is the
That's
ideal.
Great, yeah.
So that's really fun. And then essentially how this came about. So I have dreamed about doing something with our English program for a long time, like over a decade. Honestly, since I was a teen, I loved our program. I was heavily invested in the creation of it. Most of our family was. And I knew we had something unique, and I guess I had a little bit of a business brain, right? And I was like, I think this could be really big, And we never we ran it as a kind of a ministry in a lot of ways, because when you're in a place where you're teaching students, you get this overlap with people. You get to hear about their life. You get to see them week after week after week. And so we found in Japan that this was one of the best ways to get into the community. Mm-hmm. And really get to know people, and they built trust with us. And it was actually one of the ways to be able to share the gospel.
Oh yeah,
because we could build trust. They'd get to know our life. They knew we came as missionaries. At Christmas we would share about the Christmas story. Like we'd have these moments. People would come in and have a hard day one week, and we'd just say, "Is it okay if we pray for you?" And they'd say, "Yeah, that would be great." Right. So we saw that this overlap of being able to have this place of connection with the community through English teaching allowed us to also have a place of connection and build relationship, trust, and even share our faith.
Oh, that's great.
Which was really powerful. And so my parents moved off the missions field in 2021, and we essentially closed down the predecessor company and didn't do anything with the program. So it essentially was not being used. So then in 2024, it was right at the end of 2024, I was working with Minding the Gap, and I was in a meeting, and the principal of one of the schools shared that they had quite a few students come into their elementary school that were coming from other, country backgrounds.
Wow.
and they were having a hard time figuring out how to well integrate that many students coming from another language.
Yeah.
And they were like, we don't really have a well-developed program to navigate that, English as a second language, or it's ELL, English Language Learners is another way to say it. And so I was like curious about that. I was like, I might have some resources for you guys in that space, right? So that's part of what I'm looking at. John Maxwell talks about like always be adding value, right? Yeah. So I hear a little thing and I'm like, I might have some resources for you. I don't know if I can help solve that problem, but let's talk more.
Yeah.
I get to meet a couple teachers that are over that space and hear some of their problems, hear some of the pain points they're experiencing. And I was like, you know what? Let me just ask my dad where our program's at and if we still have access to it. And at least kind of worst case scenario, at least I could give you access to a few lessons. So that started a conversation. My dad gives me a USB drive that has like our whole program on it, right?
He would have that too. I've got the whole thing, right?
There you go.
Oh, wow.
And it's like crazy. The organization is like mind-boggling, not amazing. It's got stuff from 2005 till 2021 all in there, and originally our program had been 4 DVD sets and then additional material. So it wasn't in 3 books. So essentially I had to take all of that, X out a few, cut out a few lessons that were like, no, this is not going to be applicable, reorganize it, and then figure out what's still usable, what's still modern enough, and what needs to be completely upgraded. And what started as just like let me help these teachers get a few lessons ended up in me like basically rewriting the entire curriculum, formatting it in a way where the goal would be these are on Amazon, someone could buy one or all of these books and literally have instructions to jump in. They could jump in and start teaching somebody English at like today. Yeah. Right.
So does this work? I mean, I know this is predominantly for children probably, but this also works for adults too, right?
Yeah, works for adults. Yeah. And then it's designed, is built for getting implemented where we're teaching English to to those who are coming from other language backgrounds. The reality though is that every kid who's learning English, even if they're coming from a family that's speaking English in their household, needs to learn these same things. It's just probably they start learning their veggies and fruits when they're, 1, 2, 3, instead of that's what somebody else is learning their native language. And then maybe when they're 4 or 5, or maybe when they're 25, or maybe when they're 45, then they're learning this material if they're coming in from a different language. So that's where we found there's a lot of ways that this can be used because it's built in such a natural learning process. Yeah. Really anyone learning English, regardless of what base language you're coming from, or if you don't actually have a base language, you could start learning this. Now, these are what's been confusing for some people is that these aren't written for the student. These are written for the teacher.
Oh, okay.
So these books are curriculum for the teacher. So one of the things that I don't know if it will ever happen or not, but the project was completed. The teachers got their resources, right? Yeah. Now the question is, what was the point of this hugely, rapid pace acceleration of starting this, company, publishing this book? We'll talk about the kids' books that we published as well. But, what was the point of that? And I'm not actually sure, where it's going to go, right? But there is this excitement in me that regardless of if it's just helping a few students or hundreds or thousands of students learn English better and start that journey, that would be amazing. The other thing I could see that would be really amazing is that there are a lot of people that want to go into missions or they want to serve communities in other countries, and they don't necessarily have a practical way to serve the people, the community in those other countries. But teaching them English is actually one of the most practical ways that you can serve a community in a different country.
Yeah, I've heard of lots of missionaries. What were you doing in that country? Teaching them English.
Yeah, teaching them English.
It's normal.
And a lot of them, you can jump on ChatGPT. Wow. You can buy something. You're pulling together all these different resources and kind of trying to figure it out. Well, we took some of that and we've already built this program out. Somebody could literally buy this on Amazon, throw it in their backpack, and immediately, as soon as they land in that country, they can provide value to the community. Yeah, they could say, and they could have a way to be able to start building relationships, a way to be able to have connection and those conversations, building trust. And regardless of where that happens, as far as like even gospel conversations and things like that, the reality is they'll have deposited something of value there. So that would be really exciting to me if it kind of had that space of impact too.
So I had two other younger missionary friends that I had met, and they went over to, I think, Turkey. I think they were in Turkey or maybe India. I think they were in India. Anyway, so they were in India, and he was making guitars, and she was working with textiles. And so they started two businesses in India.
Yeah.
One of them was, hiring people to make guitars, and the other one was, hiring people to work with textiles. And like you said, you're providing a value, right? Other than just telling people about Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's like you're serving their natural need of and so they were able to create income for them.
Yeah.
And then,
it can create income, and it has the potential of multiplying where, you can create jobs for people. And, there's so many different things there.
So to your point, like if you're bringing something of value that's not just Christianity.
Yeah.
Christianity is extremely valuable.
That's the best gift, right? It is.
But people are like, I'm hungry. I need to eat. I need to drink, and I need to learn a language that can help me. Whatever.
Yeah.
So
because
if you, for instance, if you're in an African tribe in Africa or in South America, and you only know your tribal language, the world's closed to you. It really is. I mean, it is. And so if you were to teach them this language, it opens the entire world.
Yeah. And this is designed. I mean, once you get into book 3. It's really more, complex sentence patterns and goes into past tense, lots of practice. We're actually using this in Minding the Gap just for reading practice because kids need reading practice. And hey, these are one sentence with one picture. It's way more interesting to read than a page of words. Same thing as I was talking about the equation, right? So we have another set of, sentence equations that they can do those sentence building exercises. So the goal is that when someone, a teacher walks them through this material, they get through all the content, that they would have a basic proficiency in English. And then really, you think about how native learners, it's like by the time we were in first grade, we already spoke a lot, right? We spoke, we knew a whole bunch of things. And then we went and studied for another 12 years about our own language, right?
Right.
So really, this is not the end. This is a launch. It's called ESL Launch. It's a launch point.
Moving forward faster.
To help somebody get going so that they can then and the goal is that they don't quit too fast, right? Yeah. People quit their fitness goals, people quit their health goals, their finance goals, their English learning goals because of so many different reasons. What if they could learn enough that they learn how to learn? Yeah. What if the teachers who are trying to get into English teaching, if they can have something where they can start teaching and they can learn to teach and be really good at it and then keep going.
Yeah. And so that, like, for instance, what you just referenced is Minding Gap is, they're dealing with literacy crisis in our schools right now.
Yeah.
And so people use, I think the statement is basically people learn English. They're learning English as a learning thing. Then they're using English to learn. I forget there's a better way of saying it.
Yeah. They learn to read and then they read to learn.
That's the way. Yeah. Yep. So they learn to read and then they read to learn. And so that's like what you're basically like, we can help you learn to read and then you can read to learn.
Read to learn. Yeah. That's the same thing.
Because that's how we learn, people learn through reading.
Yeah. And so that's part of where so we have these kids books. So I wrote this one and illustrated it. This is a little guy named Pup. And I started writing books with Pup. He's a little cartoon dog that I've created. And I started drawing pictures with Pup like back when I was like 12, 13 or something. So Pup has traveled the world. He's been on all kinds of whiteboards. He's been drawn in kids, notebooks and all kinds of things all over the place. Yeah. So this one is Prepositions with Pup. So it's a little storybook that teaches prepositions. But part of that idea of how do you learn to read, how do you learn stuff, you need multiple ways of interacting with the material. So there's a lesson on prepositions in here. You can also read a book on prepositions and it reinforces the same material. So these ones are honestly, anybody can use these for kids. My sister then wrote 3 books and they're, similar contents. This one's Colors and Shapes. This one's Basic Sentence Patterns, Jen and Brew at the Beach. This one's Jen and Brew at the Zoo.
And all of these books are going to be on the website.
Yeah. And they're all on Amazon. You can get them
on Amazon.
And it was just fun because my sister, she was inspired. There's the last lesson in this first book is at the zoo. And she was like, man, what if we wrote a kid's book for the at the Zoom lesson so that you can read the material, have different pictures, but it's kind of fun. And then what I found too with my native English speakers is that these are just fun. I mean, like my nieces and nephews have these books. Like they're fun readers for anyone.
They look
and they're good English,
illustrated, very simple books to read.
Yeah, they're really fun, and the illustrations are great. So it's just supplemental material that works with this, but they're also totally standalone for all of them as well.
That's so great. Okay. All right. Well, we'll have that definitely on the show notes and also on the website. Faith Horizons has pages for specific organization pages, which this is a limited liability organization. But it will be underneath the education link on our missions page, so that you can just pull that up, and then you'll hear a little short from Kim, and then you can either buy the books or you can learn more about it. And I'm sure you can probably just contact Kim directly from the website, and she can, if you're at school or something like that and you want to start buying more than just one copy. There's ways of doing that too, I'm sure. So
that'll be
anyway,
great.
So thanks for being with us today, and thank you for showing us ESL and then the other supplementary material, which is great books as well. So, and thanks for your sister for writing such nice books too. So I was like, well, I should have got Jen on here too, but it's fine. You can't have everything. So anyway, but
hopefully maybe you can have her on another show.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about anyway. So anyway, but Jen wrote 3 books, and then we've got another 4 from Kim. This is the English as a Second Language launch. It's serving the individual and also the schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And because there's lots of classes. This is a very big enterprise.
Yeah.
So because we have, we hire people for my cleaning company, and we have 2 people that came over from Ukraine, and they both are having to learn English as a second language.
Yeah.
And you don't think about it, but then it's just the way it is.
And some of them, they're learning sometimes it's their 4th or 5th language, right? And it's crazy to me. That's also what I love about the language learning, is just this dignity of people are learning. I speak English, but I also speak some Japanese and Spanish, but I'm not nearly as proficient in either Japanese or Spanish. And it blows my mind, like the people that speak 4 or 5 languages at a fluency level that's crazy to me. I'm like, that is so impressive. Wow. And then if they're learning their, second or their 6th language and it's English, and they're struggling and they don't know how to say, vegetable or whatever it is, I'm like, yeah, but you speak like so many other languages. I'm like, who cares? I'll help you work on it. Let's learn this, right? But like also just that dignity of, wow, you're learning. So many people don't learn a 2nd or 3rd or 4th language. And so it's just so exciting to help people on that journey when they are, right? It's like, man, props to you. That takes a lot of courage and guts and just a willingness to honestly be kind of vulnerable. Anytime you learn new things, it's hard, and you're not usually good at it right away. So
it's so good.
Yeah. So it's important to have the right process and coaches along the process to be able to go through that well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
And thanks,
God bless. And we're looking forward to, it'll be out in about the next 2-3 weeks, and we'll get it out there, and just people can meet you. And like I said, you got the finance side of things, where you're helping people with finances. You're always helping people take the next step, giving them the steps forward to a better future. I think that's really cool, and I think that's true of everything you do. So anyway, I really excited to see what it'll be like for you in the future, because anyway, if you want to meet the multiplier, just go on. I'll just call her the multiplier. If you want to meet the multiplier, she'll be on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and all that stuff. So
awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me on, and it's a joy, and letting me share a little bit of our story and my story, and appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much.